Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
The man, the myth, the metal suit that kicked off a cinematic universe.
In this episode of Let's Talk About That, we are diving helmet first into Iron Man, the film that redefined the superhero genre.
It introduced us to Robert Downey Jr.'s legendary take on Tony Stark and laid the groundwork for everything that the MCU would become.
So, from cave-built suits to AC/DC soundtracks, and one very smug arms dealer turned hero.
Let's talk about
Iron Man. So, welcome to episode 1 of our very, very long road through the MCU. And today we're talking about Iron Man.
Yeah.
So, my first question to you is, obviously Iron Man is the first official MCU film, but it's not necessarily everybody's first MCU film. It wasn't my first MCU film, so what was your first film, and then when did you first watch Iron Man?
So my first introduction to the MCU was through Avengers, or Avengers Assemble, as it was called here in the UK.
Yes, it was. Do you know why it was called that?
We've gone over it a little bit. It was something to do with a show back in the 60s. But you know more than me.
Yes. So what we're not going to be doing in this podcast is we're not going to be doing like a lot of facts, Easter eggs, and that sort of thing. It's more sort of our own personal thoughts and opinions and reviews. But for this one, I will really quickly.
Yeah.
So in the late 60s, early 70s, there was a TV show in Britain called The Avengers, which meant that when this Avengers came out, they couldn't call it The Avengers. It's a lot of Avengers. So in order to avoid the confusion, they called it Avengers Assemble, which is why if anybody in Britain talks about it, most of us tend to refer it to as the Avengers.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But what you tend to get is it's referenced as Avengers Assemble because that's officially on all the posters and billboards. That's what it was called over here. So that was your first. You watched the Avengers first.
Yes, and not even in cinemas. This was probably a good year or so after its theatrical release. It was on TV at some point on some channel. But I absolutely loved it. So I then went and sort of did my research as much as I could back in sort of probably 2013. Just obviously discovered that there were the kind of films before that, and I went out and bought a box set that had Iron Man, Iron Man 2, Thor, and Captain America.
Oh, so no Hulk?
No Hulk
in that.
Unfortunately.
That's probably a good job, because if you think about it, a lot of people they'll be watching that because obviously, the change from Ed Norton to Mark Ruffalo.
I wouldn't have had any idea what was going on.
It's a different man.
I don't know who this is.
Who's this strange man pretending to be the Hulk?
But so then I watched Iron Man through that box set, and that whole thing kind of got me, sort of immediately hooked me, and then here you are.
And then
here I am today.
Many years later, having spent far too much money on merchandise.
Yes, far too much. What about you?
Oh, I spent far too much money on merchandise as well. No, so for me, my first experience of it, with the MCU was Iron Man 3. That was my first cinema experience.
Okay, interesting.
I then continued to watch them as they came out in the cinemas, pretty much most of them on cinema release. And I eventually went back and watched Iron Man on. I think it must have come on TV at some point, or on one of those like pay-per-view, like you can buy it. I think we watched it at some point, but it definitely wasn't my first experience. But I do vividly remember watching Iron Man back when Disney Plus launched.
That's quite recently then.
Yeah, quite recently. I do vividly remember watching that, and I think that's my first experience with the MCU in a linear fashion, in the way it's supposed to be watched.
Yeah.
Because that's the interesting thing. A lot of people that are big Marvel fans weren't old enough to watch Iron Man in cinemas.
No.
Or at least weren't old enough to watch all the previous films and then see the difference that Iron Man has made. Which brings me on to, the next point of this.
Yeah.
How does it feel watching it now in what a lot of this podcast is going to be? It's going to be a retrospective look.
Yes.
On the MCU. Almost like a love letter from its fans.
Yeah.
Going like, why do we love this so much? Why do we still watch these films? Why has this universe made such an impact on us as fans?
Yeah.
So my secondary question is, from when you first saw it to seeing it now, because we've recently rewatched it to do this podcast.
We have.
You know, we haven't done this from memory.
It'd be quite impressive if we did.
So what is your take on it now?
I think I've got a stronger appreciation for it nowadays. I think obviously there's a lot of mature themes. I think not necessarily at the forefront of the film, but they're definitely there. A lot of probably adult jokes that definitely flew over my head when I first watched this.
Like watching this is so dirty.
Yeah,
now when you look
it
at
is. So that a lot of that I think I probably didn't understand when I first watched it. Watching it now, I understood a lot more. I think I took a lot more away from it. But I also have a strong appreciation for what it kicked off. Obviously, watching all the films, I'd probably say like 90% of the series, a sort of understanding what that original film had launched. I've got a much stronger appreciation for the film now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my view of it again, because I've rewatched it fairly recently. Hasn't particularly changed. There's a lot more things I've noticed.
Yes.
Having watched it and having to sit down and make notes and
Absolutely.
critically think about the film, I've definitely noticed a lot more now. There's a lot more wrong with it than I originally thought, because I'm sitting there with a notepad and pen or with the laptop.
You're looking at it analytically.
Yeah. But I do love the film, and one of the main things I love is the soundtrack. That opening shot, whiskey in hand, in a Humvee. It perfectly sets the tone of what Iron Man and Tony Stark is. I also, my main experience with this was when I moved out from uni, got my own place, I had a big white wall, and you know what I'm going to say.
Did you create a little home cinema?
I did. I got a projector. I got a nice little projector.
So
it wasn't super, great quality, but it worked really well in the dark. And I got to have a cinematic experience, and I watched all the MCU films in the IMAX aspect ratio.
Brilliant.
In my bed, looking at this wall. It was amazing. It was such a good time. And obviously with COVID as well.
Nothing else to do.
Disney Plus.
Yeah,
it was
that
great.
came out at the right time for us.
Yep, it came out at the right time to sit and binge, especially in this country, not being able to go anywhere and do anything.
Yeah.
I think WandaVision as well was a big experience for me during lockdown.
Yeah, I've got fond memories of that.
So speaking of the film.
Yes.
So obviously one of the things that you love doing, we'll go over some facts and figures, but one of the things that you've really enjoyed, or one thing that you've kind of taken lead on, is casting. So let's talk about the cast, shall we?
It's the cast for Iron Man 2008. Obviously, we've got Robert Downey Jr. In the titular role as Tony Stark Iron Man, who I think was made for this role in a way. I think he's obviously Iron Man at the time was. Would you say a B tier? I
think the way I worded it before was, he wouldn't appear on your lunchbox. If you had a Marvel lunchbox back in the early 2000s, you're talking
Hulk,
your X-Men, Spider-Man, Hulk, Wolverine, all that sort of thing. He wouldn't have appeared on there.
No. So I think in a way he's kind of made the role of Iron Man what it is today. That character he's brought it into kind of the public eye.
And in a sense, because of his past that he's gone through, the role made him as well.
Absolutely, it did. But I think it's interesting, kind of how we've kind of talked about it a little bit, sort of when doing our notes. But how kind of when a character is kind of popularized within a comic book movie, how that then influences the other media that it's in. So a big 100%. Example that I like to look at is Chris Pratt as Star-Lord in the Guardians films. Yep. Star-Lord in sort of the kind of, they rebooted it I think in the early 2000s before the film, and that's kind of what inspired then the film to come on. But the comic book character of Star-Lord, he wasn't this sort of bumbling, witty, wisecracking, lovable fool. He was quite a stern, serious, like he knows what he needs to do, almost. Would you call it like a Han Solo kind of a character? Yeah,
he's that sort of scruffy-looking nerf herder.
Yeah,
that sort of vibe.
Yeah, so and then kind of now in animation, video games, and the comic books themselves, they kind of made Star-Lord after Chris Pratt's interpretation, and I think the same thing's happened with Iron Man. Not necessarily think it's a bad thing, but I think it's interesting. Yeah. He's kind of he put that idea forward of him making a character so popular that every other iteration.
Yeah,
has
I was just about to say. I
yeah.
think it's more not so much a sense that they're going, well, this person's done this to the character.
Yeah.
It's more the fact that version is so iconic that every other version is going to be compared to that. So we may as well just attribute this version to be like that. And
Absolutely.
I think one of the key examples is every time somebody's voiced in animation or games, a version of Iron Man. Yeah. It's been they've wanted to get the Robert Downey Jr. tone.
Yeah,
I feel like they've been in they've been in the recording booth and they've gone, give it a bit more Robert Downey Jr. and that's the note they're given.
Yeah.
So obviously we'll talk about we can't talk Iron Man film without talking about Iron Man and Tony Stark. So what are the other cast members that are in it?
We've got Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts, his secretary, assistant. I can't remember what her job role is in the film, but she kind
of does everything. She reaches a hand into his chest. It's not really a secretary job, is it?
Kind of his
entourage.
Yeah, I'd say that, but it's I think her and Robert Downey Jr.'s chemistry, it's so good in this. Every conversation that they have feels so natural, the way that they kind of bounce off each other. You can tell they're not sticking to the script, but it still works within that kind of that situation and scene. I think it's incredible what they're able to do.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've noticed is their chemistry.
Yes.
So the chemistry between the two of them is very much an acted chemistry.
Okay.
In the way, that's how I would word it.
Yeah.
Like, you see a lot of co-stars that work in a romantic sense on set.
Yeah.
They tend to develop a very close bond offset.
Yeah.
But what I've started to notice with Gwyneth Paltrow and RDJ is that the chemistry is very much there when they're on screen, and as soon as they step off, they turn that off. They're still, they're good friends.
Yeah.
They talk to each other, but the way they act offset is just two professional actors doing their jobs. At the end of the day,
and I think that's a testament to them as actors being able to switch that on.
It's a very hard thing to fake in a sense.
Yeah.
It's not fake. It doesn't feel fake, but it's definitely a very hard thing to come across as naturally played.
Definitely.
Go on, continue it. Let's continue it. I know everybody else at home and listening knows, who's in the cast. But it's interesting. We just like
to discuss them and give them their moment. We've got Jeff Bridges as Obadiah Stane / Ironmonger, as kind of the antagonist in the film. He's a brilliant actor. He was brilliant in this role. We will talk about. Oh, if we want to talk about it now, we could.
There's a whole Marvel villain problem, which we will discuss. We will discuss that at some point. It's a thing.
Yeah,
we will talk about it. We'll talk about it in other episodes when the thing is repeated.
Yeah.
So I think leave Terrence Howard for now. Not Terrence Howard. He's not the villain of the story. No, we'll leave.
Is he?
Or is he? That's why they got rid of him. No. We will leave Jeff Bridges and
we'll come back to Jeff.
We talk about the villain of the film.
A kind of one that we gloss over until we were sort of going over this before was Paul Bettany as Jarvis. Sat in a cupboard, probably recording his lines for maybe 2 hours tops.
Oh, poor Paul Bettany. Like, it's always hard being a voice actor in general, but being a voice actor where all your co-stars are on-screen actors, it's probably quite a difficult thing to do, because I just have this image, now that we've discussed it, of Paul Bettany walking down the red carpet and nobody wanting his picture or signature. And obviously later on he gets to play Vision and gets his little, superhero moment. Yeah,
it's nice, but
very, very overlooked.
Yeah, but he does a good job of what he needs to do. He's a British AI butler voice, and he does a good job.
Before AI was
a proper established thing. It was just more of a fictional rather than.
Because I have Jarvis on my phone.
You do.
I do. He tells me the time. He tells me my phone's charging.
Yeah.
He does my alarms for me. It's great.
It's
took me a very long time to do.
You mistakenly said instead of Jeff Bridges, Terrence Howard. So we'll talk about him now.
We shall.
I think iconically said first in and first out. He was the first hired, and he was the first one to be recast in the MCU.
Was the first one to get hired?
The first one to get hired. Wow. He was paid the most.
Yes, he was. He was paid so much money for this film.
He was, and then
he wanted more.
And he wanted more, and then
they said no.
And they said no, and he went.
Okay, I'll take what I had before. Then I'm like, no, you're gone. Which I'm very, very happy with Don Cheadle.
Yes.
I'm very happy. He's a great roadie, which I think is the more important part of the character.
I think so.
But I do think Terrence Howard would have been great to see as War Machine.
Yeah, I think it would have been fun to see his take on that kind of alter ego.
Yeah.
Kind of seeing him alongside RDJ in this film. The kind of, again, it's that kind of sort of that chemistry that Gwyneth Paltrow has with him. They've kind of got that good back and forth.
Yeah.
It would be. I mean, I'm not saying that Don Cheadle doesn't have that. They definitely do.
Yeah.
But it feels in this a bit more. They're almost on the same level. Whereas I kind of feel like Don Cheadle's almost kind of like an older brother to Tony Stark in a way.
So it feels more like, to put it in DC aspects, it feels like Batman and Nightwing rather than Batman and Robin.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a perfect way to. Yeah,
that's the way I've just pictured it. The way you described it. Now we've talked about the cast.
Yes.
You've forgotten one.
Who have I forgotten?
Well, he's also the director.
Jon Favreau.
Yeah, he forgot Jon Favreau.
It's not in my list. Let's add him on. Just to
he's in my list.
Go on.
How can you forget the director?
I think
who's also in the film
and subsequent films as well. As recently as Deadpool and Wolverine, which I think is brilliant. That he's just kind of this recurring little, almost like a Stan Lee cameo himself.
Yeah, he's
in
kind
a
of
way.
Happy Hogan has kind of just appeared in so many different. He appears in Spider-Man.
He does.
More than Iron Man does.
Yeah. I'm not sad about it.
Although never in an Avengers film up until Endgame.
Is he not in the Avengers?
No.
Interesting. I always thought he was.
He was busy. Happy Hogan was too busy. No, he's not in any of the Avengers films.
I hadn't even.
If you think back on it, the only time he appears is when he talks about hamburgers in the end of Avengers Endgame.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Not in an Avengers film.
Interesting. I hadn't even. I just assumed he was in them.
Watch somebody in the comments now. If I'm wrong, put it in the comments. But I'm pretty sure from my memory of MCU tends to be fairly good.
It does.
I'm pretty sure. I will say it with 99% confidence that he's not in that.
I know he's not in Age of Ultron.
Yeah, he's not in the first Avengers either.
Yeah. Why did I think he was in the first?
And he's not in Infinity War.
There you go. But I mean, going back to it, he's brilliant. It's a Happy Hogan. He's a brilliant director.
He's fantastic. He is the vision behind what the MCU becomes, really.
Yes, absolutely it is. I mean, we've kind of discussed it a little bit when kind of going over this, but the Iron Man itself was a huge risk for Marvel at the time. They'd sold off a lot of their properties before this. X-Men.
I did say whoever decided to do Iron Man and cast RDJ needs to buy lottery tickets for the rest of their life.
They do,
because that is such a lucky gamble.
Their luck with
like if I see them at a blackjack table and they put they put all their money on one number, I am joining them. You're
doing the same thing.
I'm doing the same because that is luck.
Yeah, I mean
genius.
The whole thing paid off so well for them. Starting with Iron Man, who we've kind of said was a B tier hero.
He's like C tier.
C tier. No one knows who Iron Man is. You've got Jon Favreau as director, who I mean, I'm not saying he's not a well-known director, but the only thing I can pluck from my head is Chef. That's the only thing he's directed. Elf. He directed Elf.
He directed Elf.
I didn't know this.
Did you not know this?
I take it back.
He's in it as well. The doctor that does his
I've not seen Elf for a long time.
So in Elf, which is one of my favourite films, if I had to pick a favourite Christmas film, it is Elf. So in Elf, there is a doctor that does the DNA test between James, what's his name? His dad.
Okay.
And Elf. And that's Jon Favreau.
I didn't know that.
He's in Elf, he directed
He
Elf.
likes starring in his own films.
I think he wrote it as well.
Brilliant. But yeah, so what was I saying? Huge risk.
Yeah.
It was a huge risk. Casting RDJ, starting with Iron Man, and then having that whole thing be the preface for the MCU was a huge gamble, but it paid off. And yeah, huge kudos to Jon Favreau for doing that. I think
it's a very, and on the whole, a lot of the decisions that make Iron Man were decisions that he made. So a lot of the visual stuff and the CGI stuff that we'll get onto in a bit, a lot of those, the things that worked so well, were decisions made at the end of the day by Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
A lot of the things he took right on his own shoulders and went, look, if this doesn't work, it's my fault. Let's go with it. I want it to be done like this.
Yeah.
And they trusted him, and it paid off.
Yeah.
So we've done cast, but we're going to talk about some other facts and figures.
Go for it.
My first one I want to test you on. Obviously, a lot of the internet databases of movies, like Rotten Tomatoes, Cinema Score, IMDb, they are constantly updated.
Yeah.
What is the current rating
on
IMDb for Iron Man, where would you think people would put it?
I would say, I'm going to say 7.8.
You are very close. It is 7.9. He was very, very close.
Okay.
To that. So the other one I'm going to pull out of the air. Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes.
Have a guess where people. That's a lot of. This is the audience score, not the critic score. The
audience score.
Where do the audience put Iron Man?
See, we've turned very cynical as audiences in recent times. So I'm going to say an 84%.
You are 10% off. Which direction do you think you are? Which direction, 10%, do you think you are?
But if IMDb was 7, 74?
Nope. 94%.
Wow, okay. Strong
score.
love for Iron Man.
People love Iron Man. But do we think that is a love for Iron Man or more of a hatred for everything else that's come out since? And I don't need you to answer that.
I think we know the answer to that. Yeah.
So the other thing I want to discuss, and we're going to put these in with all of the films that we review, we're going to talk money.
Yes.
Because a common thing that people often bring up of whether a film has been good or bad is money. And you raised something, and I want you to raise it again.
Yeah, if it doesn't make $1 billion, it's a flop. Yeah. Which I think is absurd.
It's such a stupid idea, because if a film makes enough money to cover its own ass, the 2.5 times rule. Yeah. If it makes 250% of its original budget, then it's been a success. But I think because of things like Avatar, Titanic, Endgame...
I think Marvel has kind of become its own worst enemy in that sense. Yeah. Is that a lot of their films have made $1 billion, and now if they don't do that... And I think more recently with Superman 2025...
Which, if you haven't seen already, we have got an episode
with our first impressions with that on.
Yeah.
But like, there's a lot of debate going on at the moment on the internet about, it's not going to make $1 billion. It's like, okay, it doesn't need to. It just needs to do well. The Warner Brothers are going to see that's going to...
Money, irrelevant. Because the key question, the one thing I want people to keep in mind while we're discussing these and while people might watch along with us, the key part is its entertainment. Yeah. Were you entertained? Did you enjoy it? Did you have fun? If all of those are a yes,
money's
it's done its job.
Yeah.
Money well spent.
Exactly.
But so the budget for Iron Man, 140 million in 2008. Which, adjusted for inflation, is around 206 million now.
That's an
give
average.
Or take, that's an average production
average
film.
blockbuster.
For a normal non-MCU blockbuster.
Yeah.
Nowadays, obviously, we're talking about adjusting for inflation. It's a bit hard to do that because obviously the expenses of things have changed quite a bit. Things cost more. Actors are asking for more money. You've got workers' rights, all that sort of thing.
There's a lot more to consider.
There's a lot more to consider now than back then. Opening weekend 98.6, adjusted for inflation 145 million, that is, not 145 pound. And then the overall box office for Iron Man since release is 585.3 million, which adjusted for inflation is about 863 million. So that was very fast.
I'd say that's a strong success there.
Yeah. And a lot of that money was raised probably by selling off the rights.
Yes.
For the X-Men, Spider-Man, and the Hulk.
Definitely, yeah. And that's another risk. Yeah, putting all that money that they'd sold off their properties to this film.
Thank you, Blade.
Because
it was the only reason Marvel Studios had any money at all.
Yeah. Another risk, another gamble that paid off.
So, talking about the film now.
Yeah.
We've got the opening of the film. Tony Stark in a Humvee.
Yeah. Glass
of whiskey. AC/DC.
Iconic.
Thoughts?
I love it.
End of that.
End of that thought. No.
Think more deeply.
Brain work. I think it's just a perfect introduction to his character. Everything that you need to know about him is summed up in those first few seconds.
Yeah, it's a good example of a lot of there's a not necessarily like a rule with film, but a lot of things people say is silhouettes and establishing your character within 3 seconds. Another great example, we did a test run before on Indiana Jones, and you get that silhouette of him picking up the hat. Yeah. Boom, that's your character. If you can understand what the key core aspects of this character are within 3 seconds, from a cinematography point of view and a writer-director point of view, you've nailed your job. Yes. Like, you've absolutely done it. Within 3 seconds, again, it's the same with anything. Social media stuff. If you can grab someone's attention within the first 5 seconds, that's your job done. It's always... Basically, humans have a very short attention span. So that key silhouette, glass of whiskey, AC/DC, American Humvee. Yeah. Like, it could have been a small Jeep, but no, Humvee, America, Tony Stark, whiskey, and I'm repeating the same word because it's all it is.
That's all it is. That's all you need to know about him. And I'll reiterate my first point. I just love it. I think
it works so well.
So well. Yeah.
And that aspect of the military, right? We see obviously very shortly after, not his life ending short, but almost in a sense,
very nearly.
Now we rewatched that scene literally before we started shooting this, just to hear some AC/DC for one, and then just to set our tone from how we talk about it.
Yeah.
I think the key part of that I keep looking back on is when he's knocks his backside.
Yeah.
And he opens his vest.
Yeah.
And he's bleeding. And one thing that I noticed when we rewatched this is he's wearing his own lovely, fancy, non-standard military issue bulletproof vest, which is great if you didn't design weapons to penetrate it.
Yeah.
So his own missile is obviously that's a key thing everybody discusses.
Yeah.
You know, he is his own downfall. His own missile damages him and hits him and causes the shrapnel in his heart and all that. But if he hadn't designed it to go through his own bulletproof vest, he'd have been fine. Like, if it was any other bomb at his bulletproof vest, fine. Yeah. If it was any other, like, if he hadn't made that decision to, well, I make these bulletproof vests and I'm going to make weapons that plow through them. Like, he just never thought there'd be friendly fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Which just shows the intellect of Tony Stark. And the stupidity at the same time.
And that's his duality,
yes,
in a
the
sense.
Duality of man.
Yeah, intelligence and stupidity. Yeah. What else? What else?
Flashback.
The flashback.
So it comes from that into, I think, 36 hours earlier.
Something along those lines.
Goes to 36 hours earlier, where we then see the award ceremony. And the brass band, which I'm going to mention.
Yes, go.
As I said, we're not going to go Easter eggs and stuff, but the brass band is playing the original Iron Man animated series theme.
It's just a nice little,
it's lovely.
little nod to the things that came before.
You know, why write original music when you can pinch somebody else's?
That's how you save money.
So we get the first interaction between Tony Stark and his family and friends, really. It's his family. It's all he's got left. You know, he's got Obadiah as a father figure. One thing we've never really mentioned.
Go on.
The really well put together character profile that they give you of Tony Stark. So at the opening of the film, obviously you get all the war stuff, and then you go to the casino, and you get the voiceover talking about, you know, Tony Stark. At this age, he did this. This is who his parent was.
Yes.
You get context and exposition in a very, very clever in-universe way. And I love it when it's done like that.
Yeah.
One thing I hate is clunky exposition, where it's giving you information just for the sake of giving you information.
Because it needs to, and it doesn't know how to do it cleverly.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I completely forgotten about that scene.
Yeah.
Until you just mentioned it, but I think that's a brilliant way of kind of presenting who he is in universe. It's brilliant.
A lot of things are brilliant in this film.
It's a brilliant film.
So we then obviously have that whole section where he gets interviewed, and there's not really much I want to talk about of that other than his own personal opinion of himself. At that moment, is still quite high because he has that military funding. This is brought to you. All of these advancements are brought to you by military funding. You know, we earn all this money and we invest it in R&D into other sectors of the world, basically clean water, clean energy. Advances in neuroscience and medical technology, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
He discusses that. But my next point is a lot of people tend to view this as 3 acts.
I view it as 3 acts.
And you view it as 3 acts, but I view it in a 4 act, in almost like a Shakespearean way. So you got your first act, which is all the stuff Tony Stark does in a prologue sense. So you've got the Humvee, you've got the casino stuff, and then you come back to almost like a prequel in the cave. Yeah. Everything up until he decides to become Iron Man. He becomes the Mark 1. He builds everything up until he decides to make the Mark 1 and reveals it in the cave. That is your prologue.
Yeah.
And then you've got Iron Man developing and turning into... you've got Tony Stark turning and developing into
he's
who he believes to be Iron Man. Then you've got all the Iron Man stuff that he does,
testing
from
and...
no, like, so that's part of the
first bit. Okay.
So on about when he officially becomes Iron Man and he's seen in the news in Gulmira,
Yes.
and he blows up the tank and he does that cool badass thing and looking away. That is all your third act.
Yeah.
And then your final act is your epilogue, which is from the moment, I'd say, Obadiah is revealed as the villain.
Okay.
You wrap up your villain fight.
Interesting.
Which is your final act of the film.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the way I view it. It's very, as I said, it's very Shakespearean. You've got often in Shakespearean plays, you have the bit that's put on the start of the play. Romeo and Juliet is a great example. It has the in Fair Verona, where we set our tale, two families, both liking dignity, all that section, and then the fight and all that, and then you cut to this is where your story starts.
Yeah.
That's your prologue. Then later on you have your epilogue, which is the wrap-up of the story. Obviously, it's much longer in a film sense, your epilogue and prologue.
Yeah.
And then you have your two main acts, your first half and second half, which like a play would be in a first act and second act.
Yeah.
That's the way I've always viewed it. But I'm interested in the way you view your three acts.
I would say along the same structure, only that I think I combined your prologue and first act, so I kind of view the capture and escape as the first act. So that whole bit up until he's back in America, that's kind of your first act, and then when he lands back in the US, that's kind of the start of Act 2. His experimentation and, like you said, getting into the news and sort of testing out his what he can do, and then the third act being the villain turn and reveal and the final battle. So yeah, I just sort of combine what you view as the prologue into the first act.
Because your background, just so everybody knows about us,
yeah,
your background is more sort of art and design and graphics.
Yes.
My background is very much film and theatre and all that side of things. So from a theatre point of view, and in a sense, obviously film comes it takes a lot of its stuff from theatre. You have your a lot of the time you use 4 acts, but that follows the story of the main character, who you're mainly following. Every major decision they make becomes a new act.
Yeah.
So obviously he makes the decision to become the Mark 1.
Yeah.
And that's the end of your first bit. Then everything he does from Mark 1 up until the point where he decides to become Iron Man and develops and uses these suits he's made and goes and makes a political decision.
Yeah.
That's your second. That's what the end of your second.
Okay.
And then obviously he then has a development as Iron Man.
Yeah.
Going and making all these, almost more political decisions and stepping into Gulmira and doing all that and having these flight tests and shutting down all the Stark stuff. I'm not being very clear because I haven't really looked into it properly and written them down. And then obviously your final act is when he decides to become a superhero in a sense. More of I'm fighting a supervillain, and that epilogue that ends it. So do you know the one thing we haven't mentioned yet?
Go on.
Considering the title of the film.
Okay.
Iron Man.
Himself.
We've discussed Tony Stark, we've discussed the villains, we've discussed, how many acts it's got.
Yeah.
We've not discussed the blooming suit.
It looks good in this film. I think the practical effects really sort of help bring forward that sense of realism.
Yeah. The one and only time that RDJ ever wore a full suit.
After this film, he's like, "No, thank you."
Can you imagine how warm it? Like, I went to Comic-Con in a full costume. You went in a full costume.
Yeah.
They were fabric and I was warm. Can you imagine how hot it must have been in a full metal and plastic suit?
Yeah, it would be a lot. But yeah, I think they're just a really great translation of comic book material into a sort of more realistic live action setting. Yeah,
it's very gritty and which I think The Dark Knight and Batman Begins really helps with.
Definitely helps set. Yeah,
Batman Begins was 2005.
Yep.
And then obviously Dark Knight was the same year, but that grounded, realistic. We're
Absolutely.
Comic book, but we're not quite comic book tone.
Yeah,
works really well for this. And as you said, the CGI not only looks good, it
still holds up today
to now. Like obviously, you're looking at it and you're going, yeah, I can see the seams, but you'd have to really know what you're looking for.
Yeah, or just being really nitpicky.
One of the things that I want to talk about from a CGI Iron Man point of view, the heads-up display.
Yeah. Okay.
That it wouldn't look like that. There's no way there's that much room in his helmet to have a camera that far away.
No.
But it's for the the look and the feel of it.
Yeah, it's to evoke that.
And the heads up display wouldn't be that far away from his face.
No,
it would have to
very
be
close. Yeah.
There.
For
our audio viewers, I just put my hand over my face.
Yeah.
it would have to be so close to his face, but for a visual perspective and to show the audience what he's viewing and how he's feeling, that sort of fisheye lens, showing the whole heads-up display, it again, as you said, it just works.
It works, and I think proof of that is that there's so many copycats that have done a similar thing in film and TV. I mean, I think every kind of Iron Man-esque thing has had that kind of replicating the MCU. There's a great example. I recently was rewatching the Flash TV series. There's a great scene in that where the Atom, played by former Superman Brandon Routh, he's flying, and it's that fisheye close-up lens.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that because it's not the same thing, but they very clearly saw, that works in Iron Man. Let's try it for us as well. And it's one of those things that this film sets and kind of the other films and other media replicate because it works.
Yeah, and obviously this is the film with the least amount of Iron Man suits, other than like Avengers and and Spider-Man appearances. I think as an Iron Man film, obviously Iron Man 3 has the most. I think Iron Man 2 then has a couple more.
Yeah,
because merchandising.
Toys.
And then this one has, how many suits are in this film?
So I had originally said 3 until you made a great point.
It's just a paint job. He's fixed a couple things and he's tweaked it, but I don't think it's a whole new suit.
I wouldn't say so either now.
I'm not 100% sure. Again, if I'm wrong, in the comments, off you go. I can take it. I'm pretty sure that he just takes the Mark II, tweaks it, and puts some spray paint. And then later on in the Hall of Armors, he makes an actual, because obviously he doesn't have the Mark I.
No.
It's in
pieces.
It becomes the Iron Man.
Well, yeah.
But he has it for like a trophy room sort of thing. This is what I've done. This is my progress, and this is my Hall of Armors. Mm-hmm. There's two suits in this film.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I would
now.
stick it. There's 2 suits.
I would agree with that now. I would have, like I said, I've said 3
I
before.
will give it 2.5. It's Mark 2.5.
Mark 2.5.
It's
That's
red
fair.
and gold.
Yeah.
Favorite one in the film, and then I'll ask another question afterwards.
Okay. I'm going to be really annoying with my answer, and I'm going to say the Mark 1.
Such a basic man.
in this, it's not my favorite. Not my favorite overall in the entire catalog of Iron Man suits.
You guessed my second question. What's your favorite overall?
So my favorite overall is another basic answer. Is it the Mark 7 in the Avengers? film?
Yeah. In the first
in the
half
first
of the
Avengers, the first half.
Yeah, because I think he's got 2 suits in that.
Because he's got the one that catches him when he jumps out. Yeah. I think it's because that was my first introduction to the MCU. I've probably sort of got a bit of like subconscious nostalgia.
The one with the triangle.
Yeah, triangle. Yeah, triangle arc reactor shape. I think it's just sort of that bit of nostalgia I've got for the Avengers. That is just the suit that I associate with Iron Man.
Yeah.
It almost controversially in the way that I've kind of got a soft spot. I mean, this is again going a bit off tangent. A soft spot for the Avengers Captain America suit, which I know people hate. But
which Avengers Captain America suit?
The
bright
blue final battle one. I think it looks better if it goes on when it gets dirty, but
it's the helmet. When he's got the helmet off, it's fine.
I agree with that. But
the helmet is
it's just that I'm
too
just blinded
weird.
by nostalgia a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
But go on. You've got a slightly different favourite in the film and overall.
In the film, it's the Mark II, just because for one of 2 reasons. It's the first Iron Man looking suit, and then also from a CGI point of view, it's damn hard to do chrome.
Yeah.
It's so hard to CGI chrome because obviously you're not just figuring out what it looks like, you're figuring out what everything looks like in its reflection.
Yeah. So
that's obviously really, really hard to do. And the fact that they managed to do it like flawlessly, I'd say flawlessly then.
Yeah.
Obviously looking back, it's pretty damn good, but it's not flawless. But you can't judge it by what we can do now.
No.
You can only judge it by what they did at the time,
exactly.
And it's very, very good.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And to do that on a 140 million budget, that's very, very impressive.
Absolutely.
And then my favourite Iron Man suit overall, I've got 2.
Okay.
I know we discussed this earlier, but my favourite is I like the Mark 9, which is essentially it's the Mark III, which I've got over here, and for our audio viewers, it is the one that you see at the end of Iron Man 3, Iron Man 1,
Iron Man 1,
Iron Man, Iron Man 3. The Mark IX appears very briefly in Iron Man 3, and it's the same red and gold that you see on the Mark III, but it is in this colour orientation, I'd say.
The same kind of style,
of the original comic book, yellow and red.
Gold arms,
gold legs. It's great. But then I also have a soft spot for, I think it's the Mark 48. Again, don't quote me on that, but it's the one in Homecoming.
With that kind of like silver.
I love the silver sort of legs and torso.
Yeah. It almost in a way looks a bit unfinished, but it works. Yeah. I quite like it. I agree. Yeah, I like that.
But irrelevant to this film.
Yes.
Should we talk about some of the problems?
I think so. I think we can kind of lean towards that. Yeah. We both share the same problems in kind of the.
I think it's hard not to because they're very obvious problems.
Yes, and they're very obvious problems throughout the whole of the MCU. In that there's the big Marvel villain problem, which is talked about a lot. But I think as well in just the final act itself, in that the film kind of sets itself apart from very like other comic book films, and then kind of falls into the classic same powered villain, big battle at the end.
It feels very much like a video game in a sense.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you do all your side quests.
Yeah.
And then, the last 10 minutes is spent doing the boss fight. Cool.
Yeah.
It feels very, very boss fighty in a sense of, I think Obadiah Stane is a great villain. Ironmonger's not.
Yeah.
And it has the one thing that I've made notes on it because it's that much of it's that much of a problem for me. We have this constant issue across all of the film where the villain is killed off or written out of the narrative at the end of the film. It's almost for that superhero moment of we've won, we've defeated them, done. Or, could be a licensing thing for some of them.
Possibly.
I don't know. We don't know the ins and outs because we're not Marvel. But at the end of the day, there's this constant problem that I have with Marvel doing this. And they basically, you kill off the villain, win the fight.
Yeah.
As opposed to the comics, where, in a sense, it's also bad because it's gross negligence at the end of the day. So you have, like, in the Spider-Man comics, you have all these recurring great villains. Like, I've defeated that Doc Ock. I've put him in prison. But wait, he's escaped immediately.
Yeah.
And it's the same problem Batman has with the Joker and all that sort of. But that's what makes them so iconic.
Yeah.
It's their villain. You can bring him back. And I think, Marvel, in a sense of when they do their films, they want this triumphant end. And we kind of lose that villain for the rest of the narrative. Like, we don't get to use them again.
Because it would be great to bring them back at some point.
It's why Loki works.
Yeah.
It's why he works so well, because you bring him in a villain as in Thor, you bring him in a villain in Avengers, you put him on that redemption arc and give him a story and becomes a hero.
Yeah.
And everybody loves him.
Yeah.
We need some of that. And my main one that I wish we had it with is Ultron.
Yes. I agree. I think there's the common, getting ahead of ourselves, but I think there's the common criticism with Age of Ultron is that it's called Age of Ultron, and realistically, it's a few days.
Yeah, actually, I'd never thought of that. It's like the Age of Iron, the Age of, the Bronze Age, all that sort of thing. Actually, no, it was just
probably
3 days.
Less than a week.
Yeah.
It's a shame that they got rid of him so quickly, although maybe they're bringing him back for a future project.
Why is Jim treating the magician? That's all I can think of when I think of that.
But yeah, it is a shame kind of that they fall into that getting rid of villain trope throughout a lot of their films.
And also, as I've already said, Obadiah Stane is a great villain. I'd love to have seen him more from and the way I compared him to Lex Luthor. Sort of that, not because he's bald. That kind of like behind the scenes evil mastermind villain aspect.
Yeah.
Rather than I'm going to get in the middle of this fight and actually do some dirty work.
Yeah.
It works really well when you find out that he's operating behind the scenes. And that reveal. Do you remember first watching that reveal?
I do.
It baffled me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's his friend. It's his dad's friend. And it's like a father figure and he stabbed him in the back.
Yeah.
Which should have been expected. But at the end of the day...
Because now it's like a classic.
Yeah.
It's a classic thing that happens in films. But, yeah.
But wasn't then.
And it's a great twist. And like you said, it works for his villain arc. I think his motivations and objectives are very clear. And you understand why he's doing what he wants. Because he's just a power-hungry... billionaire that just wants more things, and he sees Iron Man and he wants that, and he makes things, his suit, 10 times bigger.
So the other thing that I want to talk about is obviously right at the end, for the very first time, a post-credit scene.
Yeah.
Never really done. It's been done. You got Ferris Bueller's Day Off,
a classic.
But like as a staple, we're going to sit in every film till the end of the credits and even wait for the lights to come on.
It's become a thing.
It's
now
become a thing.
Even general audiences do. Yeah. I recently saw the new Jurassic World.
Oh, was it good? I haven't seen that.
It was good for me. You've got Jurassic Park, that's like a cult classic. I think that's the masterpiece of a film. But no, it was good. But interestingly, with that first off, that was the most packed I've seen a cinema since probably 2020. The cinema was packed, which is lovely to see. But again, like I knew there wasn't a post-credit scene because I'd looked at it before. I do that with every film. So I got up and left. But how
much do I need to hold my bladder for?
But the people still sat in seats and I could tell they weren't moving.
Thank you, Marvel. We now have to wait through the credits. But yeah, the post-credit scene for this.
Yeah.
Did you know there's two?
I didn't know there was two.
Obviously, the one that we all know is "Who the hell are you?" or whatever the line is for that, and he's like, "I'm Nick Fury. I'm here to talk to you about
the Avengers Initiative."
The Avengers Initiative, named after Carol Danvers, who we didn't know at this point,
and they didn't know at the point.
And no, they didn't know. But the original one was actually a reference / tie-in to the X-Men Hulk, the original Hulk 2005, Eric Bana one, and Spider-Man. So the line is, as if gamma accidents, radioactive bug bites, and assorted mutants weren't enough, I have to deal with a spoiled brat who doesn't play well with others.
Brilliant.
Which ties up the film perfectly.
Yeah.
So obviously they couldn't do that for legal purposes. Fox and Sony were like, absolutely not. We've paid good money for this, and they're making us good money.
You're not having them. We're not sharing.
They're ours now, which is still a problem. Nearly 20 years later. But obviously, imagine seeing that in 2008.
That would
how big of a deal that's like.
Yeah.
The one thing that I want to absolutely get clear is the MCU is its own thing and always has been its own thing.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like it.
No.
There has been nothing like it. The closest thing we're getting is like what we're going to start seeing now with DC. Yeah. I hope.
Yeah.
But obviously they didn't do this before.
No.
Nobody did this before.
This is
the closest I can think of is your George Lucas stuff.
Yeah.
Star Wars, Indiana Jones. Obviously, you mentioned Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
You had, but they were in a sense linear stories.
They're just more of a series of films.
It's
sagas,
one long story split along 6 films originally, and even with The Force Awakens onwards, they're the same story.
Yeah.
It's the story of Luke Skywalker and Anakin Skywalker and Leia and Han and all that. It's the same characters throughout. There's aspects of that within the MCU. You got your Iron Man, you got your Captain America, you got Thor, you got all these other characters that go through. But at the core of it, it's individual stories that tie together into one big universe, and that's what I love about this. You can be you can be a fan of Guardians, you can be a fan of Spider-Man. You can watch those films, and then you can see them tie in. You don't necessarily have to sit throughout every single film and enjoy every single one. There are going to be some that you like, there are going to be some that you don't like, because each one has its own writers, directors, each one has its own comic background. You're not going to sit there and read every damn comic, are you? And go, well, I must, because they're all made by Marvel. Some people might, and that's, if they enjoy that, great.
Yeah.
But there's going to be plenty of people that don't. And, that doesn't mean it's a detriment to the rest of them.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I was hoping for more thoughts.
Oh, sorry.
I'm passing this over.
No, I agree. I think I've forgotten the main question.
So obviously seeing that MCU in 2008 take off.
Yeah.
Obviously the question is like your thoughts on the MCU, in a sense.
I think it's in
a very broad sense.
No, I think it's in a way it's a masterpiece. We've kind of spoken about the risks that Iron Man has taken, and for that to pay off as much as it has, and to be such a financial and I think audience receptive success, and the fact that the very first one was hinged on such a risky film, and it's taken off as well as it has, and it's still going quite strongly, despite what people say. It's still making money. It's still getting people in seats. I think it's an absolute I think, brilliant triumph by Marvel. And
I've got Phase 1's budget.
go on.
So Phase 1 earned $3.74 billion.
Wow.
Which is a hell of a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
And to see the success, and it only cost $1.15 billion to make all 5 films across Phase 1.
It's pretty much doubled its
pretty much
doubled its profit.
Over doubled
its budget. Yeah. Wow. That is. That's really put things into perspective.
So as a wrap up,
yes.
the final food for thought, in a sense, is I've got it in big block letters at the bottom of my page. You can probably see it from there.
I can see it.
Would Iron Man work if made in 2025?
I think they absolutely would not cast Robert Downey Jr. Nowadays. If the film was being made today, I think the realm of social media is too unforgiving for that to be a thing. I mean, it's a very different kind of situation, but I think a big example of that is with Jonathan Majors as Kang.
Yeah,
I'm kind of seeing that. You mentioned it before when we've kind of been discussing notes and whatnot, but that is a great example of kind of, if you do something, and I'm not saying you should be forgiven for things, certain things, but I think there is an element now where it's kind of, you do a bad thing and that's it, your career is done. So I'm very glad that people gave RDJ a chance to I mean, he had his kind of redemption before this film, but to give him a chance here.
He wouldn't be he wouldn't be like, everybody knows who this man is.
Definitely not. So in that sense, I don't think they would be making this film today. I think as well, a lot of the kind of...
Not with RDJ. It'd be Tom Cruise.
It could be Tom Cruise. He'd probably be up for it.
Yeah.
I think as well, a lot of the kind of the war setting, I think is quite touchy. I mean, especially back then. But now, again, in the realm of kind of social media...
I mean, we're talking 2008, which is only 7 years post. And again, touchy subject. Post 9/11.
Yeah.
And again, I think we discussed it before, as two British men born in 1999 and 2001. You can guess which one of us was that, who's younger, who's older. So... two British people looking at it from that perspective. Mm-hmm. It's not really within our cultural...
No.
Like, obviously, people that are older than us remember it hit the news and all that sort of thing, but they don't really, it's not taught in schools really that much.
No.
It's not part of our, like, major histories. Obviously, now, that 2008 era, post 9/11, you got the war on terror, and we're still massively within the global news. So launching the MCU with a Middle Eastern terrorist plot...
Another risk?
That's risky.
Another risk.
That's really risky. And I think now, audiences are a lot more globally aware of how, especially how media portrays conflict. We're seeing that with Superman.
Yeah.
Now, how other countries' actions are then deemed and viewed from, the high horse of the Western world, in a sense.
Yeah.
So that portrayal of the Ten Rings, it would probably backlash. In fact, you know what? They wouldn't even do it.
They wouldn't even get as far
They'd get as far as, this is the idea. It would leak online and somebody would kick off and
that's it.
They'd go, hang on a minute, we're a multi-billion-dollar company. We're not going to put our name on this.
Yeah.
Let's pull back, especially with Disney.
Yeah, absolutely.
Marvel Studios was Marvel Studios. Now that they're running on Disney, they've got a lot more, running behind it. Because you're not talking about a multi-billion-dollar Marvel company. You're talking about a multi-trillion-dollar Marvel, Star Wars, Fox, National Geographic, all these different companies they own would come under wrap for that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. But on the kind of to answer the other part of the question with would it kick off the MCU? I think it would. I think if I think regardless of all that, if Iron Man was released today, I think there's some problems with it. But I think it's still now when we've watched it and looking at it sort of from today's standard of film, I think it's still strong enough movie to thing to kick off that franchise.
One thing I did notice with this is that although it comes up in the overlay with the where they are, they're in Afghanistan. Nobody in the script ever mentions Afghanistan.
Oh, okay.
Or Iraq or any of these Middle Eastern countries. Nobody ever mentions them by name or associated political extremist groups. Nobody. Oh, yeah, obviously they've got the 10 Rings, which is the fictional one, but nobody ever mentions anything along those lines.
I wonder if that was maybe something that they were a bit dicey with during
and
filming.
then didn't change their mind about it until post-production.
And then just put the titles over. Interesting, yeah.
That's a final thought for me
for
that discussion point. Wrapping this up, what is your rating for the film?
Out of 10?
Out of 7.9. No, out of 10.
Out of 10. I would stick it at a solid 8 out of 10. There's some problems with it that we've discussed, but I think it is a really strong film. I think it's still a strong film now. I think it is one of the MCU's strongest origin stories, one of the Phase 1's strongest films. So I think 8 out of 10 is a solid rating from me.
I would agree with an 8 out of 10. The way I rate films, and I think we've had this discussion before again.
Yeah.
So the way I rate films is automatic. When I sit down in that cinema, when I sit down at my sofa, it's a 10.
Yeah.
And then if something sticks out enough that it becomes a problem, I'll be like, yeah, that knocks it down a bit. For me, instead of adding on points, things get knocked back.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
So for me, that problem with Ironmonger and the Obadiah Stane, and then I just think that there could have been more of a comic, but again, it's a retrospective thing, and I think we're looking back from the new style of Captain America with the comic accuracy.
Where we are now with superhero
Fantastic
films.
Four coming out literally 2 days from now. So we're filming this on the Tuesday before Fantastic Four comes out. We're talking about Marvel's really hammering home the comic stuff now.
Yeah, we're leaning
so I think I'd like to have seen a bit more of that.
Yeah,
and I'd like to have seen a bit more Tony Stark, rather than Tony Stark gets hit by a bomb and is automatically changed.
Yeah,
I think I'd like to have seen. I have the same problem with Doctor Strange. You don't really get
that's one of my
enough Doctor Strange before you get magic Doctor Strange.
To earn that, I think it's slightly more successful here. But
100%.
That is one of my criticisms with Doctor Strange is that you don't know him enough to.
You don't know Stephen Strange before you know Doctor Strange.
That redemption for him.
Yeah. So I think from me that is a wrap up. Have you got anything else you want to say before we end this?
We've gone through all my notes. I think
we've gone through all mine.
Yeah, we're done.
So without further ado, for the very very first time, thank you for watching. If you would subscribe.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
Yes, because this is going to be going out on Spotify as well. So for the YouTube audience, there'll be a link down below for the Spotify. For the Spotify, I don't know how to do links, so I'm not sure there will be one. You can find us on the on YouTube for Let's Talk About That channel.
Yep.
Or if you search in LTAT and then episode 1, 2 in that order.
I'm sure we'll appear.
Searching the films, we should hopefully appear. So without further ado, goodbye, good night.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching.